What's up, guys? It's Victoria from Under Victoria's Spell, and I'm having to redo this intro because the first time I filmed it in slow motion, so I know you guys do not want to see that. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my end of the month wrap up for January. So let's hop right into it. Okay, so sorry about the lighting. It is very rainy today and there's nothing really I can do about it. It's supposed to rain all week and I wanted to get this filmed. So I'm gonna talk about the 6 books that I finished in the second half of January. It was such a fun reading month, such a great introduction into 2023. I absolutely loved it and I cannot wait to see what the rest of 2023 holds for reading, life, just everything. So let's go ahead and hop into the first book that I read, and that is Restore Me by J.L. Seekers. Yes. And I gave it 4.5 stars. It was also a book club pick. I believe it was Ravished by Romance by Jess from Peace Love Books and Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers. So I really wanted to support their book club, and also this is a book that kind of everyone was talking about. So I was like, I have to pick this up, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so good. It was such an emotional romance. You definitely should know that before you go into it. It deals with some heavy topics. Check your trigger warning for death and loss of a child, because that is definitely present in this book. But this follows our heroine as she is in the architectural design world, and she finds out that she is going to be working with her husband's best friend, and her husband actually did pass away. You find that out very early on into the book, but they have a history together because they do not get along. So this is very much an enemies to lovers romance, and it was done very, very well. So they find out they're going to be working on a project together, and it kind of just starts from there. They kind of have this hate for each other, one that she doesn't understand, and the hero, which is his best friend, her husband's best friend, has a reason for why he has all this hostility towards her, because they do know each other from like their early days in college. So it's their romance together. It is complicated for sure, and it is slow burn, but a different type of slow burn than you're expecting, because you feel that angst because you know there's a past between them. And it is so good. I really, really enjoyed it. The only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is because of the third act breakup. I am very, very picky about third act breakups. If I feel like it's not done correctly or it could have been fleshed out more, that's going to lower my rating. And this one just really did not make sense to me. I felt like it could have been fleshed out better, or it could have been handled a different way, but it's okay. I still really enjoyed the book, but that's just the only reason that I did not give it 5 stars. But if you are looking for an emotional romance, an angsty romance, and just all of the whirlwind past that they have together, this is definitely a romance for you. And the next book that I'm going to talk about is A Court of Mist and Fury. I finally finished it. This took me quite a while to read, almost 2 months, because it was kind of really slow for me. I ended up giving it 4 stars because, of course, it's an Avatar book. I love these characters, and you know, I'm so here for them, but this book was very slow for me. I listened to it on audio and I was just really bored at times, and that's why it took me a long time to like get through. And it was very politic heavy, very war heavy, and I mean that's completely fine, but when I read romance, I want romance, and it kind of was lacking a bit for me. That's why my rating was a little bit lower, and it was really slow. If you have read a Sarah J Maas book, you know she is very wordy. She definitely explains things very thoroughly. So it was still a very good read. It was a beautiful wrap up to Feyre's story, and I was just so happy to finally see her win and her go on this amazing journey. There were some really beautiful scenes in this book, and of course, if you have read the book, you know there's a very emotional scene towards the end, and of course, it broke my heart, but I was just so here for it at the same time because it brings such character growth, and I loved it. You definitely should pick up the Avatar series. This was book 3. Please read them in order if you have not read them. And the next book that I picked up was actually the Avatar Novella, which is A Court of Frost and Starlight. I gave this 3.5 stars, and it was a very quick read. I believe the audiobook was around 6 hours, so that's very fast, very short. I do own it physically, but I'm just going to pop it up here on the screen so I don't have to go and grab it. And I was reading the reviews before I picked this up, and a lot of people don't like this novella. They thought it was pointless, there was no storyline, and that's completely fine. But I loved it. I really liked seeing the characters deal with normal problems, deal with their everyday lives, and also dealing with the aftermath of what they've just went through. I really enjoyed it. It is a holiday novella. It follows winter solstice, so this is definitely perfect for the winter time if you're looking for a winter read. But I really enjoyed watching Feyre just deal with normal life, and Rhysand and Cassian and Moore and Azriel. I mean, just all of them. I really enjoyed their simple problems, but it also set up great for the next book. Now, what bothered me a lot in this book, it didn't necessarily lower my rating, but it was just frustrating as a reader, is how Elaine and Nesta treat Feyre. This really bothers me. I feel like she has done so much for them her entire life, and they really are just kind of cruel at times to her. Even though Elaine does not necessarily come off as cruel, she still does things that is very hurtful. So I definitely am hoping in the next book that is on my February TBR that Nesta's story can kind of really explain some things for me, and also some redemption can happen, because Feyre has done a lot, and I think that she deserves a really big apology, and she needs a lot of character growth, but so does Elaine, because she's seen as very frilly, and I think that she needs to get a backbone in her book. So I definitely want to see their stories, but that really bothered me in the book, and I feel like it definitely needs to be addressed in the later books. But overall, still a really good novella. And the next 2 books I'm going to talk about, I read for the KU Readathon that was going on from January 26th to January 29th, and it was hosted by some YouTubers here on Booktube. And I had 4 books on my TBR, but I only got around to 2, no surprise, but I can't help it, I get busy. And the first book that I picked up was Room 22 by Mila Crawford. This filled in the trope for my favorite trope, which is like a poly romance reverse harem, and also a new to me author. I have never read anything by Mila Crawford before, so I was excited to try this author out, and it was on the shorter side. I believe it was like maybe under 200 pages, so novella length. I did give this book 2 stars, and it's exactly what you would want out of a pure smut romance. Like, no plot, pure smut. I mean, like, it was interesting. Like, I read it in one sitting because it was very short. I read it during a reading sprint, but like, there was no plot, and the plot that there was absolutely ridiculous. This is a plus size heroine, so I did love that representation, but it was just an odd story. It follows a stepbrother and stepsister, and he has pretty much been obsessed with her, him and his friends, their entire life. And they're also in the mafia, and anytime she gets a love interest or a boyfriend, they pretty much kill him because they want her all to themselves. So, but they won't go after her. So it's kind of like that push and pull. They're very creepy and stalkerish, and like, it's just a unhinged book. it is, and the things that they do to her is very unhinged. And there's no third act breakup, so if you're looking for a short novella that is pure smut and no third act breakup, this is definitely the one for you. It is just very wild and chaotic. It was a good time, but it just didn't get that 5-star read for me, so 2 stars. And the next book that I'm going to talk about is Muscles and Monsters by Ashley Bennett. This fit the category for under 250 pages, and it was another one, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. But this is my first monster romance, y'all. Like, I was very excited to jump into this because I know that they are very hyped. I know Ava from Ava's Romance Books really loves monster romances, so I was like, I really want to try out a monster romance, and this had been on my radar because I heard Caitlin from the Love Librarian talk about this book in one of her recommendation or wrap-up videos a few months ago, and it had been on my TBR for way too long. So I was like, I'm just gonna hop right into it, and the cover is absolutely adorable. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was such a fun read. It was very cute and cozy and very lighthearted for it being a monster romance. And this follows our heroine as she owns a bakery, and our hero owns a fitness center, and she is actually doing a wedding for the mayor and mayor's daughter and her husband. So on the way, she drops this cake, and our hero ends up passing by on the way to his gym and rescues her in ways of helping her with this cake. Automatically, they have this cute banter, and our hero is just automatically obsessed with our heroine. In this world, monsters and humans do coexist, and it's kind of more normalized, so it isn't very like, oh my god, there's a monster on my street, you know? So it was really sweet, and our heroine ends up joining this gym because she wants to build strength in her arms so that she doesn't drop any more cakes. And she is a plus size heroine. I absolutely love that representation. It was done beautifully, and it was not demeaning to her weight at all. And I really loved that because she was very confident in her own skin and her own body. And I really love that representation. That needs to be seen more in books. It was such a great and sweet romance between these two because he ends up training her, and it was just so sweet. They were just enamored with each other from the very beginning, and I loved it. I cannot wait to continue on in this series by Ashley Bennett. She writes beautifully, and I cannot wait to read more from her. And the last book that I read this month, I'm kind of just going to graze over because it was a reread for me. I did not rate it on Goodreads. I read Savage Bonds by Jay Bree, and I reread it on audio. As you know, this is my favorite series by Jay Bree, and I have access to Scrib now, so I wanted to re-listen to the audiobooks. And I just did that whenever I was cleaning or laying down for the night or had some free time. So it was kind of just a fun time for me to dive back into this world that I absolutely love. It is a fantasy romance. It's a reverse harem. Why choose? If you have not heard me talk about this series, I promise you could probably go to any of my videos and hear me talk about the Bonds That Tie series by Jay Bree because it's absolutely amazing. If you have not read it, you definitely need to. Okay, and now I'm going to do the total breakdown statistics for the month. So in total, I read 13 books, and that's really amazing for me because based off of my Goodreads goal, I need to read around 7 or 8 books a month to be on goal with my 100 books goal, but I got a little bit over that, so I'm so thankful for that, and I had a really good time. So I had 2 5-star reads, 2 4.5-star reads, I had 5 4-star reads, 2 3.5-star reads, 0 3 stars, 0 2.5 stars, 1 2-star, and 0 1-stars or DNFs. So I feel like that's a really great reading month. I'm just so excited to see what February holds, and I cannot wait to discover even more romances. And that's all for me today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books down below. Tell me what you read in the month of January and what your favorite read was. I would absolutely love to know. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.